What would you do if you were given 2 million naira to do something that didn't match your values, but you had family bills to pay, you had things to do? Would you refund it? Well, Emeka refunded his. Let's share the story.
So this guy Emeka Okafor was a fresh graduate, studied mechanical engineering at the University of Benin. He was a 24 years old ambitious young man. He knew where he came from. He wasn't forming like his situation was fine when it wasn't. So even when he was still in school, he was already learning IT skills on the side. Not because anybody told him to. He just knew his degree might not be enough. That kind of person, you already know they're serious, sha. But then, his background was not easy at all, eh? His father had left him, his sister and mother when he was just a child and traveled abroad for better opportunities. At first, he was sending money, calling regularly. Then the calls reduced. Then the money stopped. Then nothing, total silence. After waiting for years, Mama Grace, his mother, just accepted it and moved on. She had children to raise. So every morning before daybreak, she was at the market selling tomatoes, pepper, onions, vegetables, whatever she could carry. Her body wasn't doing well. Her diabetes was getting worse, but she kept going because she had children to feed. Emeka saw everything growing up, so he was not playing with his future at all. Whenever he wasn't attending interviews, he was at that market helping her set up before customers arrived. The traders would laugh. Graduate where they sell tomato. He didn't care. Honest work is honest work. They were living in a small rented apartment where the roof leaked when it rained, but they managed. They had support from family here and there. Nobody was rich, but people sent what they could. Then there was his younger sister Ada, aka Grace Baby, still in school, fighting through every semester. She never really complained because she knew what Emeka was already carrying. And then there was Temi. So Temi and Emeka met in their second year at uni during a group assignment. He was even a bit skeptical about dating at first because he knew his financial situation and what relationships sometimes require. But he loved Temi and she understood him. Their relationship wasn't about expensive places or big gestures. Most of their best times were just long walks, sharing something small after church, sitting together after interviews that didn't work out, and trying encouraging each other. Mama Grace loved Temi. Whenever Temi came to the market, she would tell the other women, "That's my daughter." And Temi would just sit beside her and help and gist with her. Sometimes when Temi was at the market, fine cars would pull up. Well-dressed guys would come down, notice her, try to start conversation. She never encouraged it, but she was human. Sometimes the thought would cross her mind quietly, what would it feel like to not have to count every naira before buying something? She never stopped loving Emeka, but the pressure of adulthood was weighing on both of them in ways they didn't always say out loud. So, one evening, Ada came to show Emeka a message from her school. Outstanding fees. If not paid in 2 weeks, she won't be able to register for the new semester. Emeka looked at the message, looked at his sister, smiled and told her not to worry. He had no idea where the money was going to come from. The interviews kept coming and going. "We'll get back to you." Nobody ever did. But then, one day his phone rang. Prime Link Logistics called and offered the role of an operations support officer. Not engineering, not what he spent years studying for, but it was a real job with real pay. And Emeka didn't think twice, he took it. The day he told Mama Grace, she was so happy at the market and was jubilating. The other traders started celebrating because out everyone around them had watched this family struggle for a long time. They knowed what this meant. And things slowly started to move. When Emeka got his first salary, he bought groceries for the house. When he got his second salary, he paid part of Ada's fees. He started taking Mama Grace for checkups properly instead of waiting until something went wrong. At work, Emeka was just being himself and it was already standing out. His engineering background helped him understand the warehouse side of things. His IT skills made him the person people called when the software had issues. One afternoon, the entire warehouse system just crashed. Orders stopped. Drivers were waiting. Everyone was panicking. Emeka sat down quietly and fixed it. By the time anyone realized what happened, it was done. From that day, supervisors trusted him, managers trusted him, even the operations manager, Mr. Bello, started paying attention to him. But here is where it gets interesting. Mr. Bello was not noticing Emeka for good reasons. For years, Mr. Bello had been stealing from the company, expensive machine parts, manipulating the inventory records so nothing showed up. He had people on the inside helping him keep the numbers clean. But recently, the internal auditors were getting closer and his usual people had become too risky to use. He needed somebody new, somebody trusted, somebody clean, somebody nobody would ever suspect, and he chose Emeka. One evening after work, he called Emeka into his office and closed the door. He was calm about it. He just placed a brown envelope on the table. 2 million naira, cash. He explained it simply. A shipment was coming the following week. All Emeka needed to do was make one small adjustment in the system after the goods arrived. That's it. Just a few changes on the computer, and the money was his. Emeka stood there looking at that envelope. 2 million naira. And he thought, Ada's fees, done. Mama Gracie's treatment, sorted. Better apartment, possible. Everything at once, with just one decision. He asked for one night to think about it. That evening, he couldn't eat. He just sat there watching Mama Grace sorting vegetables for the next morning, watched Ada reading under that flickering light bulb, looked at Temi's picture on his phone, and he kept asking himself, is one wrong move worth fixing everything at once? He went to see his friend Tunde later that night, told him everything. Tunde didn't even hesitate. If na me, I no go think twice. Guy, life no balance. Sometimes you gats help yourself. Those words stayed with him the whole night. The next morning, he woke up before everyone, prayed, got dressed quietly, and walked back to the office. Mr. Bello was already there waiting. Emeka sat down, and without a long speech, he picked up that brown envelope and pushed it back gently across the table. I'm sorry, sir, I can't do it. Mr. Bello looked at him for a moment, then he smiled, not a good smile. As Emeka got up to leave, Mr. Bello said one last thing. Integrity doesn't pay bills, you know. Emeka didn't reply. He just walked out. And as he stepped outside, he felt something heavy had settled in him. Not peace, not confidence, just doubt. Real quiet doubt. Maybe Tunde was right. Maybe he just pushed away the only chance his family had. Maybe integrity was easier to talk about when you weren't the one watching your mom sort tomatoes at 5 in the morning at her elderly age. He was walking home slowly, head down. Then his phone vibrated. He almost ignored it, but he stopped and looked at the screen. An email. He opened it, read the first line. then read it again. Congratulations. He just stood there on that pavement, people walking past him on both sides. He didn't move. He whispered to himself, "This can't be real." But it was. And you're just like that. Everything was about to change.